What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, we get to talk about Crash 4, It's About Time, and finally put to bed this long-standing debate amongst fans of did this game sell well or not. Now, I will say this, and to be pretty transparent, and before we get into the actual numbers, selling well is not really up to us. Now, we either buy or don't buy the game, sure, but ultimately, it doesn't. I mean, I saw this online. I think Canadian guy A posted a poll, and I respect the guy. This is nothing against him. I tweeted at him, and I had even said, like, hey, I feel like it's more what the publisher thinks versus what we think. For a game to sell 2 million units, one might think that's great, one might think that's terrible, the publisher might think either one. In this case, it depends on Activision, but I would be hard-pressed to argue that this game did not sell well. I really believe this game sold well, and if Activision wouldn't think so, which there's been no indication, but if Activision didn't think so, they've lost their marbles. I mean, I don't know what to say. EA has done things like this before. I think even Square Enix maybe, where I know for EA, Battlefield will sell like 8 to 10 million. They'll say, well, we wanted 12, so it was kind of a failure. Again, it really just depends on the publisher. But what we have here is a post from Timur222, and he posts a lot about like job postings or people that have had previous employment. And you see here an employee that still works with Toys for Bob, working on their unannounced project, worked on Crash Team Rumble. They worked on Crash 4, It's About Time. Well-received sequel to Naughty Dog's classic Crash Bandicoot trilogy, over 5 million units sold. So it is a little sad that we even have to rely on stuff like this. Well, yeah, there's no reason to lie. Like, so it did sell over 5. But it is sad that we have to rely on these numbers and this way of finding out info, right? It almost feels like, and I don't know, 5 million is actually a pretty round-ish number. It's a pretty big title kind of driving number. You know what I mean? Basically, I guess my point is, if a game sells 3 million, that might not be clickable. You know what I mean? A studio might not care to throw it out there. But when you reach 5, when you reach like 10, when you reach, say, 1, and you're kind of a smaller time game, right? It's a big deal. So you say that out loud. So I guess my point is I would think that they would say something for Crash, right? I mean, the thing is they've never talked about the sales for Crash. I don't think ever. I really don't believe ever. So the fact that it sells 5 million should be something that they like put out in a tweet, considering they did it with Spyro, the Reignited trilogy. So maybe one day they actually will. But still 5 million units. And again, does Activision think that's successful? God, I would hope so, because I think 5 million for a brand new game. Yes, it's in an established IP, but you never know. And I mean, like, to be fair, the heyday of Crash probably was like back in time. I don't know if it's in a stronger place now than it was back in the late 90s. You know what I mean? I mean, that could be controversial. That could be wrong. The fans' presence and how excited people, myself included, when the Insane trilogy came out, right? That was powerful. And I think there are still plenty of people that are into Crash, and I think these games can be wildly successful, okay? But you had Insane trilogy, which did well. You had this that did well, and now you had Crash Team Rumble. Crash Team Rumble, I really don't think got anybody to jump in. I would not be surprised if that game did less than 1 million by like a substantial amount. So that I would consider that one probably a failure, but Crash is doing well. It's doing strong. And again, the idea was, well, was this game ever successful? There was always the debate of this game, Reignited trilogy, because again, they really didn't say all that much with numbers. But I think it does prove, like I just said, I think it proves that Crash is in a pretty strong place. You could argue what Team Rumble has done to it, but for a brand new game, not from the people who made the originals, and it's decades later, and it's a new era of younger kids maybe jumping in, and you're also relying on people that grew up with I mean, I grew up with it, right? Crash Bash, fun history lesson with me. Crash Bash is the first game I ever remember playing. And I don't know with certainty if it is the first game I ever played, but it's the first game I remember playing. I can remember like Power Rangers and Digimon and other games, but this game, Crash Bash, I should say, was, to my memory, the very first game I ever played. So it'll always be important to me. I will always support this thing through hell and back, and I did for even Team Rumble. But great to hear. Great to hear. Now go out. Toys for Bob is probably making Spyro next, Spyro 4. I believe Crash will never die, and I think we will get another one, and I look forward to it. I'll be covering that as well. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.